Hi, everyone. Next slide, please. Thank you. I wanted everyone to see our wonderful 9/11 Day of Service logo. Next slide, please. Welcome, everyone, on behalf of AmeriCorps and 9/11 Day, our co-host for this webinar on honoring the 20th anniversary of September 11th, 2001. In a few minutes, you'll hear from our co-host for this session, David Paine, co-founder of 9/11 Day. AmeriCorps was designated as the federal home for the 9/11 Day of Service and Remembrance in 2009. In addition to outreach, marketing, and promotional resources, AmeriCorps also administers a small grant program. 9/11 Day is the organization responsible for help making this federally recognized day of service a reality, working tirelessly with family members in Congress to enact legislation in 2009. They also organize national events, service projects, and tools, particularly for use in schools, to honor this important day. For the 20th anniversary, our focus over the course of the next 90 minutes, you'll hear from individuals who will share ideas and resources to plan and implement service to honor the 20th anniversary of 9/11 Day. This year, AmeriCorps and 9/11 Day will continue to focus on activities that both honor those lost 20 years ago and those who rose in service and promote unity. These individuals will share ideas about including arts in your service and recognition, supporting productive transitions back to school, engaging higher ed and youth, disaster preparedness, hunger, veterans and military families, and at the end, we'll share some mental health resources. Of course, we hope that many of you will support efforts to get people vaccinated against COVID-19 as part of your 9/11 Day of Service. As our communities are trying to recover from the last 18 months, it's vitally important to reach vaccination rates that protect against a repeat of the devastation that occurred in the last 18 months. And of course, we want to have plenty of time left at the end so you can ask questions and engage with our presenters. Now I'd like to introduce David Paine to tell you about his organization, 9/11 Day, and their plans to honor the 20th anniversary. David, all yours.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. I hope you can hear me okay. So I am delighted, first of all, to have the opportunity to speak with you all and to partner with AmeriCorps, which has just been an amazing organization to work with since Jay Winnick and I first came to Washington, D.C. in 2003 with this little idea that maybe we could transform 9/11 into a day of doing good and service as a way to honor those that were killed and injured and those that rose in service. And thanks to AmeriCorps' help and so many other organizations, including quite a few I'm sure that are on this call, September 11th has turned into one of the largest days of service in our nation. And of course, now we're reaching a extraordinary milestone in the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It's almost impossible for me to imagine that it's been 20 years. But in so many ways, that tragedy is very fresh in my mind, and as it is, of course, for so many of the 9/11 family members who lost their loved ones on that terrible day. And we're coming to you because we're essentially asking for your help to make sure that we keep the promise to never forget by inviting all of you in whatever way you may decide to participate in promoting the 20th anniversary of 9/11 Day of Service and providing opportunities for your employees, for your community, for your members, and for your constituents to have an opportunity to participate as well. And so what I wanted to do was to talk to you a little bit about the plans that we have for the 20th anniversary and give you a sense of some of the ways in which you can be helpful in this whole process. So if you want to move to the next slide, thank you. For the 20th anniversary of 9/11, it's really an unprecedented effort here because 9/11 Day and AmeriCorps are working in close partnership with all of the 9/11 memorial and museums for the first time. So that's the 9/11 Memorial Museum in New York, the Pentagon Memorial, the Flight 93 National Memorial, the 9/11 Tribute Museum, as well as 10 other 9/11 and first responder and veteran organizations throughout the New York area and throughout the nation. Together, our plan is to transform the 20th anniversary into both a national and a worldwide day of doing good. And we have a number of very significant programs that are planned for that effort. And I wanted to touch on a few of them here. Beginning sometime in August, we'll be rolling out a national PSA advertising campaign that will be supported by all of the major networks, television, radio, and social media, entitled Shine a Light. It's an amazing campaign in which 9/11 family members, first responders, survivors, and veterans will join with prominent New York City area celebrities in calling upon the nation to remember and rekindle the spirit of unity that we all experienced right after the September 11th attack, and to make personal pledges to do some act of service, kindness, or charity in observance of 9/11 this year. We're expecting that this campaign will be seen by tens of millions of Americans, and it's meant to create a climate for engagement that we hope all of you will take advantage of and to dovetail on top of through your own outreach efforts to educate people that you work with that this is the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and that there are many ways in which these individuals that you work with can participate and get involved in the campaign. I will soon through AmeriCorps share with all of you the actual PSA campaign creative, so you'll have a sense of what it looks like. And once the filming is completed, which will be in late July, sometime in early August before it goes live, we'll make that available to you in formats that you'll be able to share on your own social pages, on your website, and other ways as an opportunity to tag on top of the campaign and the programs that we have in mind. Obviously, one of the most important things we can do is build awareness on our end, and that's a giant part of what our campaign will be about. Your responsibility, hopefully, and the way you can help us, is to create opportunities for people to participate. So the number one reason we hear that people don't engage in 9/11 Day is they say they weren't asked. No organization reached out to them. No organization created an opportunity for them. And whether it's a virtual opportunity or an in-person opportunity, you know, people will be looking for things to do. So we ask you to help us by creating as many opportunities as you can, or at the very least, reaching out to all of those that follow and support you and invite them to make donations to your own organization as part of their charity good deed. You know, keep in mind that 9/11 Day is a little bit like Giving Tuesday. There's no reason in the world why you can't promote a giving campaign that focuses on your own programs. So, you know, please take full advantage of what, you know, is going to be created for the 20th anniversary to engage people, you know, in your communities. To support sort of the way in which individuals can make pledges to engage in good deed doing, to find things they can do. In August, we'll also be launching an extraordinary new digital platform and website at 911day.org. Again, we'll set up a follow-up time to give you a sneak peek when that's ready to go. We're anticipating we'll have it done toward the tail end of July, and then probably in early August, time to coincide with the PSA launch. That website should be going live. We're pleased to be able to report that in at least 10 cities around the nation, we're going to be able to bring back our 9/11 Day volunteer service projects in many cities around the country. And as you know, for the last 5 years, we have run signature projects on September 11th, in which tens of thousands of volunteers around the country have come together to pack meals for people in need. And these are dry, non-perishable meals that are then donated to AmeriCorps, Feeding America affiliated food banks in those local communities. So we're going to be able to do that again. You know, of course, we'll be carefully monitoring COVID restrictions. We anticipate we'll be able to do them in a somewhat reasonable and normal fashion. But of course, we do have plans for social distancing, mask wearing, and other things as may be needed, depending upon the regulations and issues in the communities where these projects will take place. We haven't officially announced those cities yet. We probably won't do that probably for another couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. But again, we'll keep you closely apprised of these plans. And of course, this means that, if you're a youth group, if you have individuals that might want to come and actually help pack meals with us, a veteran organization, a school, a faith group, in all these cities, we're definitely looking for volunteers that want to come and participate. And of course, at the corporate level, we have a lot of employees that traditionally do volunteer with us, and many of the local corporations help to underwrite these projects and the food costs associated with them through their grants. Additionally, we're working with World Central Kitchen to hopefully purchase up to 100,000 meals from local restaurants. These are freshly prepared meals that would be delivered on 9/11 to first responders, veterans, and people who may be at risk of hunger. Another exciting program that's being launched this year is our partnership with Discovery Education. So for the first time working with them, we are creating a brand new curricula and sort of what we're calling a virtual field trip that will include panel discussions with children and people who were impacted by 9/11 to talk a little bit about the evolution of 9/11, how it's become a day of service, and how important it is and why it's so important for young people in particular to remember and pay tribute through service activities on the anniversary of 9/11 every year. So that's a great program, and we're anticipating that some of the virtual field trip video, some of the other lesson plans that we're going to have will be available to many of you for at a period of time, sometime in August as well. The last one is sort of maybe one of the most important, which is our plans to work with all of you to create sort of an ad hoc 9/11 20th anniversary Day of Service Coalition. And essentially it's free for every one of you to join. We want as many organizations, hundreds and thousands, to participate. And if you do join, you'll get a toolkit, you'll get some training, and you'll get ideas and thoughts on how you can activate around the 20th anniversary of 9/11 Day this year. And we'll get more information to you about that program as well as it comes online, which will be probably in early July. But again, the most important thing for us is to be able to make sure that we have as many opportunities out there in the field so that when millions of Americans want to participate in the 20th anniversary of 9/11, they'll be able to find opportunities to do so, whether that's making donations, volunteering, or just simply engaging in good deeds. So you can move to the next slide. Thank you. So coalition, a little more detail on that. You will receive information from us about sort of making the pledge to join the coalition. Again, this is a non-monetary commitment. It's essentially non-binding, but of course, what we're looking for is to be able to publish on our website, ultimately in August, an extraordinary list of local organizations that will be engaged. Also, too, if you are planning to organize in-person volunteer projects, we want to make sure that you start getting those organized as soon as possible and that you register them in the appropriate sort of database where you typically post your projects, whether that's a Points of Light application, a volunteer match, an All for Good application, or working with AmeriCorps. It's very important that you get those projects in the system so that people can find them, because we're going to be working with almost all of those partners to try to encourage people to search for volunteer opportunities leading up to 9/11 and to encourage them to do it, weeks in advance before these projects book up. So please make sure you think about how you want to activate and how you want to spread the word about the projects that you may have in mind. When we roll out the 9/11 Day website, you will find some really interesting information in there. There'll be a brand new toolkit that'll be available to you as a coalition member. You'll find social media assets, videos, logos, all sorts of things. And you can certainly use, our generic 9/11 Day, logo and say official program partner underneath it, or whatever you want to do to sort of recognize yourself for the involvement that you're making in supporting this coalition effort. I do want to just again sort of reaffirm how important it will be to alert your members and supporters about the Day of Service, and to do so early on and to have a schedule for that, a timeline. The website that we'll be launching will be an amazing place where those people can go individually to at least post and share sort of what their plans are. This is not meant to replace, however, an effort to get them to go to your own website where they could look for very specific opportunities to serve in local communities. But we are trying to encourage as many people to also go to 911day.org so that they can make their pledge to perform some good deed and to share it through social media, which is sort of essentially how we're going to generate the millions of good deeds that we want to try to document in the United States and in other parts of the world. Again, don't forget to ask them to make a donation, to you, because I really think it's very, very important that you realize that if people are looking for things to do, there's no reason why they can't support your organization. So with that, I'm going to wrap up and turn it back to Rhonda. Again, you can always reach me at david.paine, P-A-I-N-E, at 911day.org. If you have any questions and emails, and of course, I've been looking at the chat, and I recognize so many friends and others. So thanks again for all that you've already been doing to support us and whatever you can do to help us for the 20th. Yeah, and Rhonda, I think you may be on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I've already mentioned AmeriCorps' role in promoting and honoring September 11th, along with Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. These are the only two federally designated days of service. It's our honor and mission to engage volunteers in service on these 2 days and throughout the year. We know that through service and volunteering, we lift spirits, others and our own, learn about our communities, and make a difference in the lives of others. Our hope is that through this webinar, you'll continue to get ideas that will help you and your organization make an important difference as you serve and engage others in these days of service. On the AmeriCorps website, you'll see in this slide, the website address, you'll find resources for marketing and promoting your day of service, communication tools for use in traditional and social media that will include graphics and logos. You'll be able to post volunteer projects for others to find, to volunteer, or for them to get ideas that they can replicate in their own communities. We think that's very important, setting the example. We encourage everyone to post your volunteer opportunities. David's already mentioned that, not later than August 1st. We'll share more information in the coming weeks, so stay tuned about that process. Please take advantage of our social and traditional media resources. We are very closely aligned with 9/11 Day, David's organization, but these resources will really help bring local attention for your projects, as well as connect you to the national campaign, which we think is really an important piece of what's happening this year on the 20th anniversary. We have a great list of self-starter ideas that you can do on your own, with a group, with your family, or simply just to have in your hip pocket as a backup in case your service projects are oversubscribed, which is a good thing, right? It's now my pleasure to introduce you to Rod Joy, the Chief of Staff at the National Endowment of the Arts, and our other presenters who will follow Raj. Brooke Parkinson from Volunteer Houston, Parth Singh, a recent AmeriCorps alum, will soon be working with AmeriCorps NCCC, Amy Cohen, Rochelle, Yancey, and Abigail Habel from George Washington JumpStart and DC Public Schools in that order, Karen Daniel from Youth Service America, and Mary Tobin from AmeriCorps to present today. Ra, take it away.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rod Joy. I serve as a Chief of Staff at the National Endowment for the Arts, and I'm very pleased to be with you at today's webinar. At a time of enormous consequence for our country, we appreciate you making time to join this session focused on national service and honoring the 20th anniversary of September 11th, 2001. In addition to my role at the Arts Endowment, I'm showing up here today as a proud AmeriCorps alum. I know firsthand the role that AmeriCorps plays in uplifting and transforming others. AmeriCorps taught me at a very early age that people who love and care about their community have the power to change it for the good. As we prepare for the 20th anniversary of September 11th, we remember not only the horrific events of that day, but how we responded and how that response has become a symbol of sacrifice, service, resilience, and the character of our nation. As the country confronts another crisis and is climbing back from COVID-19, I'm here today to say a few words about the Arts Endowment and how artists and cultural organizations can be a powerful partner in your service work. Next slide, please. Established by Congress in 1965, the Arts Endowment works to strengthen the creative capacity of our communities by providing all Americans with diverse opportunities to experience and participate in the arts. The NEA is the only funder, public or private, that provides access to the arts in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the US territories. This slide provides really a 30,000-foot view of how the current work at the Arts Endowment aligns and complements some of the priorities of the Biden-Harris administration. The kind of four overarching themes, I'll check in briefly on each one before we drill down on the intersection of arts and service. So the first theme is around rebuilding the creative economy. The second is around uniting and healing the nation. The third is around advancing equity, opportunity, and justice. And the fourth is around serving the field. In terms of rebuilding the economy, this is all about reversing the damage of COVID-19 and getting creative workers back to work. We're very pleased today to announce and publish guidelines for our American Rescue Plan program that's designed to provide much needed relief to arts organizations and arts workers hard hit by the pandemic. We'll be announcing today the deployment of $80 million to help arts groups rehire and reopen. The second focus area is around uniting and healing the nation. And this is really all about leveraging the power of the arts and creative expression to help usher in a healthier and more hopeful future. And whether it's creative arts therapies and their role in addressing trauma, or the role that artists play in building cohesion, or the role that creative projects can play in building vaccine confidence in the communities hardest hit by COVID-19. We really want to amplify this work. And in a minute, I'm going to drill down a little bit further on some projects at the intersection of arts and service. The third focus area for us is around advancing equity, opportunity, and justice. And this is really about recognizing the role that culture can play in illuminating urgent issues of social justice, racial justice, and environmental justice. We really want to shine a light on the role that artistry can play in animating the idea of liberty and justice for all. As I wrap up on this slide, the final piece is around the field and our ability to serve the field. And I want to point out that in addition to the resources that our federal agency brings to bear, we also have a robust network of local, state, regional, and jurisdictional arts agencies that we work closely with all across the country. Next slide, please. Like AmeriCorps itself, NEA programs and investments serve as a force multiplier in communities all across the country. Right now, in towns large and small, artists and arts organizations are stepping up to meet this moment with empathy, imagination, and action. This slide is a kind of a snapshot of a number of initiatives that are either direct NEA initiatives or projects that we've funded or we're tracking. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go into detail on all of them, but hopefully we'll have more time in the Q&A. I'll make mention of perhaps one or two. In the bottom right-hand corner, out of Philadelphia, this is a focus on a project called Tiny WPA. It's named after Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Works Progress Administration. And this project is all about using the power of community design to transform vacant lots into vibrant public spaces. In the bottom left-hand corner, this is a midnight circus in the parks. This is coming out of my homeland of Chicago. This is an ensemble of artists who are working to build community and activate parks through the power of world-class contemporary circus performances. And at the very top of the slide, there's a focus on Big Read. And the National Endowment for the Arts, Big Read, is all about the organizing power of the literary arts. This popular initiative is a partnership between the NEA and Arts Midwest, showcasing a diverse range of authors and titles. The NEA Big Read builds the bonds of community through the joy of sharing a good book, and it sparks civic connections and dialogue through book-themed community events and conversations. There are over 20 NEA Big Read books that are currently being programmed or will be programmed in 2021, 2022. And I want to make note that the application deadline is in January for this program. Again, we'll have time to dig into this, hopefully in the Q&A session. Next and final slide, please. I'd like to thank our AmeriCorps colleagues for their collaborative and focused effort to include the arts in the work of remaking this nation. The organizers of today's event, I think, pulled together a great group of speakers and panelists. We hope you take away a few good ideas and a few good connections to help you get things done in your community. Above all, we encourage you to consider the Arts Endowment as a ready resource as you think about national service and as you plan for 9/11. In closing, there's some links here. I want to give a shout out to our very talented team at the Arts Endowment, and in particular, Jen Hughes, our Director of Design and Creative Placemaking, and Wida Medel from our theater team. I think they're both participating. But I want to thank you for all that you do. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us and enjoy the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brooke Parkinson. I am also an AmeriCorps NCCC alum circa 2004, class 10 in Charleston, South Carolina, Team Gold 1. You can't see my face right now, but I have a huge smile on my face because I echo what Ross said about the AmeriCorps experience and what it can do for us as individuals who participate, but what it also does for the communities where AmeriCorps members are active. So I am also the director of Volunteer Houston down here in Texas. We connect volunteers and nonprofits together to transform our community for good through volunteerism. And as a volunteer management organization, we are heavily involved in disaster preparedness and response efforts through the county, through the Harris County Long-Term Recovery Committee and the Texas Gulf Coast VOAD, which is a coalition of voluntary organizations active in disasters. So I am here today to speak to all of you about disaster preparedness service projects that you can coordinate locally on the 20th anniversary of 9/11 in support of the 9/11 Day organization. So next slide, please. Before we can talk in detail about disaster preparedness projects, let's briefly review the various types of disasters that each of your communities might face. So first we have natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding, freezing, heat waves, wildfires, and earthquakes. In Texas, we've experienced all of these, but let's not forget disasters that also result from human actions. So that could be plant explosions, mass shootings, and even riots. All of these disaster scenarios present an opportunity for both preparedness and for response. And so today we're focusing mostly on preparedness, also response, but I encourage all of you to think about which of these perspectives speak to you the most as you begin to think about what you can do in your own community. Next slide, please. I think one of the most common types of service projects is a donation drive, an in-kind donation drive. So in a disaster preparedness scenario, you might coordinate a supply drive for items that would be assembled in preparedness kits that are then distributed to certain audiences in the community. And we'll take a look at the list of items in a minute. But your list of items should be specific to your community and to the types of disasters that your community is most likely to face. However, in every kit, we highly recommend that you take advantage of the opportunity to educate folks. So include an informational flyer with a complete list of tips and emergency kit items or emergency phone numbers and hotlines that can be distributed to the folks who are receiving those kits. Education is certainly just as important as equipping folks with the right supplies to survive to survive a disaster. So you might choose to facilitate your service project in your own neighborhood, which is an excellent opportunity to get to know your neighbors. In today's day and time, it's so easy to not get to know our neighbors because we are so busy with things to do. Between family and work and social activities and more work and hobbies, sometimes we don't always get to know our neighbors, and it's oftentimes our neighbors that may need help the most during or before or after a disaster. Let's see, regarding disaster preparedness, you have tons of local resources at your fingertips through your city or through your county or parish's Office of Emergency Management. So you can certainly find resources online at ready.gov, which will give a fairly general list of supplies. But if you want to get more specific and local to your community, check out your local city and county offices of emergency management. They will have disaster information specific to your community and often have printable flyers ready for you to download and include in those kits. And even if you don't assemble a kit and all your project is focused on is distributing flyers, they have that resource for you. You can also check out your local volunteer center. They oftentimes have resources as well, or are coordinating an effort like we're talking about today. So what should you put in a disaster preparedness kits? These are the items you should have on hand together in one location so that you can quickly grab and go in response to a disaster. You can be the help. Well, we really are the help until help arrives. So we must be our own advocates. The information is out there. It's up to us, to you, to act on it. So we've got, again, certainly a flyer with information that is pertinent to all individuals before, during, and after a disaster. Water is a basic necessity, batteries oftentimes, sun protection, a first aid kit, certainly non-perishable foods, and even pet food. Don't forget about the pets. And a whistle or reflector of some sort to grab attention if you happen to be in a place that is not very obvious. Next slide, please. So here's a more complete list of disaster kit supplies. And again, the list is specific, can be specific to a disaster. So some of these will be a little bit of a repeat, but certainly consider pulling together or coordinating an in-kind drive for emergency weather radios, flashlights, a dust mask to help filter contaminated air, plastic sheeting or duct tape to help folks shelter in place, moist towelettes, garbage bags and plastic ties for personal sanitation, a non-sparking wrench or pliers to turn off utilities in homes, not just your own home, but maybe your neighbor's homes, can opener for some of those non-perishable foods, and local maps are all going to be important. But you can also consider adding prescription medications or glasses, infant formula and diapers, again, pet food and water, important family documents like insurance and photo IDs, cash or change, emergency reference material like a first aid book or information from ready.gov, sleeping bag or a warm blanket or emergency blanket, additional bedding for cold weather climates, complete change of clothing with sturdy shoes, fire extinguisher, waterproof matches, hygiene items, mess kits, and all the things you need to eat a meal, Paper and pencil is one of those things we might not think about, but it can be incredibly important because our minds are not always focused in response in the aftermath of a disaster. So being able to take and record notes is going to be incredibly important. And then books, games, and puzzles for children, which can be a very stressful time for them. So giving them something positive to work on will be a lifesaver in many situations. Next slide, please. So now you know what to do to prepare for your service project. Let's talk about who you can do this with. We know that people are ready to help. They just need to be asked. So think about your neighbors. Consider hosting a block party or reaching out and organizing your neighbors through the HOA. PTA and PTO organizations within the school are often centered in a certain community, especially if you live in a larger city or within a specific geographic school district. And you can also reach out to community centers that are often managed by city municipalities, county municipalities, you name it. But go to where the people are in the neighborhoods. Then we can think about work groups, faith groups, and school groups. And there are certainly youth groups of all sorts. In the workplace, there oftentimes are affinity groups that are already gathered and already comfortable and know each other. So maybe those affinity groups can coordinate a project for themselves or for the entire employee roster. Consider taking advantage of time that's already been booked, like a regular staff meeting. Certainly tons of after-school clubs that can be employed with or challenged with some of these projects. Honor societies, sports teams, the list goes on. And then there's family. You know, we could go real big with our service projects, but we don't have to. You organize your family, get your family together, the family that lives in your home with you. Maybe you have extended family that lives nearby that you can invite over on 9/11 to pull together all of the supplies or to walk through the neighborhood and distribute flyers. And don't forget your friends. Friends are family too. Next slide, please. So it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Coordinating your own disaster preparedness service project is pretty simple. The resources and information are already available to you. So step 1, confirm the benefiting audience. Are you going to keep it local and stick to your neighborhood? Or are you going to reach out to a local nonprofit or faith organization and work in collaboration with them to facilitate the service project? Step 2, reserve the gathering space, send an invitation. Again, it's been said a couple of times so far, but people are ready and willing to help. They just need to be asked. And then lastly, assemble and distribute, whether that's simply flyers or complete kits or the two combined. So that's it. I hope you have a little bit of inspiration to do something in the way of disaster preparedness for your own community. Just a quick thank you to AmeriCorps and to 9/11 Day for allowing us this opportunity to share some of these resources and ideas with all of you.
Thank you so much, Brooke, for those wonderful resources. Hi, everyone. My name is Parth Singh. I am AmeriCorps alum, ex-Peace Corps, and a United Nations volunteer. And most of my hunger and food insecurity relief experience has been doing disaster relief work with the San Antonio Food Bank in Texas, and then also leading a hunger relief team with the United Way of King County up in Washington. So I'm here to talk a little bit about hunger and food insecurity and give you all some service project ideas that you all can enact in your communities. So thank you so much for having me, and we'll get started. Next slide, please. So as you all know, hunger and food insecurity is a systematic issue. It affects people and communities in a vast variety of ways. So there's a lot of potential of social interventions that you can enact in your communities. The first and most important thing, I believe, is to conduct a needs assessment to really understand how this issue impacts your community and what are some of the target groups that are impacted on a daily level. This will enable you to create a social intervention and a national day of service or a long-term program that is effective and sustainable because it'll be tailored to those needs. So I have some examples on the slide in ways in which you can serve. Volunteering at food banks is extremely popular, especially during COVID times. A lot of food banks have ways in which you can socially distance and also prepare meals or conduct food distributions or food drives. So that's a very popular thing. You can get groups and involved with it as well. Meals and food delivery as well, and building food boxes for deliveries is something that is extremely popular right now too, because we have a lot of members of our community who are unable to go get groceries, or veterans who don't have access to food. So that is something we can get involved in as well. Making a day in which you have a cookout, maybe give hot meals every Sunday, or provide back to school meals is something that's a really good idea as well. There's also a lot of advocacy work that can be done. So a lot of education and fundraisers is a great idea, especially for local pantries. Getting fundraisers and getting funding is extremely important, even more important than food donations, because food pantries, if you give them money, they can kind of make the dollar go a long way. They can buy in bulk. They can use their partnerships with the corporate world and get a lot more food than if you give just food donations. There's also a big move in the industry to create culturally appropriate food boxes, and this is especially something that you can do as a day in which you work with your food pantry or your local food bank and conduct an analysis of the community that they're serving and identify, what are some of the cultural needs of that community. Because if you build one food box for a predominantly Caucasian family, those food items may not serve the needs of a Latinx family or a Vietnamese family. So very important to provide culturally appropriate food to people that they can actually use in their daily diet. So some ideas. So I think one of the most important things that we can do is provide hyper local solutions. So let me talk about that in the next slide. So next slide, please. Yeah, so hyperlocal solutions are extremely effective because most of the time when you enact a hyperlocal interventions, you're already aware of that need, and it can be a sustainable and effective solution. An example of that in hunger and food insecurity is building a mini food pantry. This is an example of a mini food pantry that I saw in a Seattle neighborhood. As you can see, it is adapted to the culture of the community. It has the phrase "take what you need, give what you can," and it is a mini food pantry that is upheld by the families in the neighborhood, and it serves the people of that neighborhood. So there's some examples that you can use. There's littlepantry.org, which is a great website. It has a lot of different examples of different communities that have enacted this intervention. There's the QR code. Feel free to use your phone and access that link. There's also some instructions on how to build it. So if you just Google how to build a mini food pantry in your neighborhood, you can get a blueprint on how to actually do that. Next slide, please. So some more resources for you. Feeding America, they're kind of the parent of all the food banks in America and pantries. So here's the QR code. You can go to their website, find a local food bank or a food pantry to volunteer and serve in. You can also, they have a lot of resources to organize food drives and virtual food drives and food distributions that you can access to, and then also how to do advocacy work in your communities. So so that's it. Hunger and food insecurity, very, very easy cause to get active in. But I think if you do it more intentionally, I think your work can go a long way for your community. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Rhonda, AmeriCorps, and 9/11 Day for having me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Parth, for those great resources. It's really important. It's great to be with so many friends and colleagues on this call. I'm Amy Cohen. I run the Nashman Center for Civic Engagement at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And though I'm not an AmeriCorps alum, I was the director of Learn and Serve America, the K-12 and higher ed service learning program that was formerly a part of the Corporation for National Service. I am delighted to be here to talk about how colleges and universities can organize service, but also how we can partner with nonprofits, with schools, with AmeriCorps seniors and AmeriCorps programs and service commissions to participate in service. We've worked as a partner for many years with the corporation and with 9/11 Day to commemorate 9/11 as a day of service. Next slide, please. This on the left-hand side is our office mission. And as you can see, we promote service at the university in a wide variety of ways. Students serve usually in partnership with nonprofits and schools. They may serve several times a week throughout the year as a tutor or a mentor. Sometimes they come up with their own innovative ideas for community programs in partnership with community. And often they work with faculty to do research addressing community identified priorities. I hope that you will take a look to the colleges in your area as partners in developing service and as resources for service participants. Almost every college, big or small, has a center, or at least a person whose job it is to connect their students and sometimes courses and faculty to provide service in the local community. Colleges use a wide variety of different names to refer to their community service offices. So to find yours, it might not just be the community service office. It might be, you might Google civic engagement, community-based learning, or community partnerships. Some schools develop partnerships through their chaplain's office, and many schools have a Bonner program. So you'll find that any of those folks are very eager to partner with you and really want to get involved with local community groups. One example is for many years, we've partnered with our state commission to serve together at each other's events and build programs together. Next slide, please. As you're developing service projects, we found it really useful to think about the many pathways of service. This concept comes from a national group organized by Stanford University, and it provides a useful organizing principle and helps to spark new ideas about the kinds of activities you might organize, particularly as we grapple with the reality of the pandemic as we continue to do that. We're always looking for what are useful and meaningful activities to be done in a virtual environment. And they may go beyond our usual conceptions of direct service. And I've seen some great ideas in the chat as we've gone through. Next slide, please. Next, as you commemorate 9/11 Day, you might use it to launch a year-long commitment to service, which could kick off, for example, with a community needs and asset assessment. For example, we had dozens of students participate in a citywide walking assessment of how our community could be age-friendly, assessing streets for safety. And I can't say enough about how terrific the Smithsonian Transcription Project and the National Archives Citizen Archivist Project are. They're online projects in which large numbers of people can provide significant and meaningful service while learning about our history. They're really terrific. And the folks who work there are wonderful as well. GW has organized large-scale service days in person and virtually for many years. And I want to introduce you to one of our key direct service project organizers who works with me for many years, Rochelle Yancey, who leads GW's outstanding JumpStart AmeriCorps program.
Hi, thank you, Amy. Hi, I'm Rochelle Yancey, Senior Site Manager for JumpStart. Yeehaw. So JumpStart is also a AmeriCorps program, but we're part-time. JumpStart advances equitable learning outcomes for young children in underserved communities by recruiting and supporting caring adults to deliver high-quality programming to children and drive system change through teaching, advocacy, and leadership. Basically, what it is that I recruit and train college students to go into the classroom to work with children and preschool children on language and literacy, social emotional development, and oral development skills. And with all of that, and the reason I'm here today is because some of these activities we do with the children and also with the families. So today I'm going to talk about how to create a virtual family engagement activity. So what you want to do is you can call the schools and find out what activities they are looking for to help you, the materials, how you're going to get the materials, pick up the materials or deliver them. Then you need a theme. So since we're talking about 9/11, you want to talk about community helpers. You read a book about community helpers. You know, one of the books that I seen that I liked was Helpers in My Community by Bobby Kalman. And then you need to gather materials. So once you figure out your idea, what you're going to do, you need to come up with a supply list so you can have what you need. And then of course, you always need to have examples and directions for your activities. Next slide, please. So 3 of the activities that I came up, and it could be for any age group, you can adapt it for any age group, was the community helper bingo. And you can create that. Only thing you need is card stock, pictures of the community. You need the board for the caller, of course. And then you need about 16 community helpers, you know, and then you glue it, you cut the pictures out and put it together. Then you have your community helper vehicles where you can create a vehicle, use a paper plate, using something real simple that you have in your house. You can use a paper plate. So the one I chose was a paper plate police car. And you color the paper plate, you get your wheels. So they're also not, you know, since we're all talking about literacy and everything, so you're talking about shapes and colors and the sizes, so you're comparing them. So you're getting to learn a lot of things about this. The next one and the last one was the community helper matching game. So what you're going to do is the same thing. Everything is about the community. So you're going to find some pictures of the community helpers. You're going to glue them on a stock paper. You're going to mix them up. And then, you know, and you just play a game. And if it's with older children, you're going to use words for this. So that's how, this is some of the things that you could do. And this will be the end product. Next slide, please. And so this is the end product. So you have your bingo, my community. This is the bingo helpers bingo, the community helpers bingo. Then you have your community helpers vehicle, fire truck, a police car. You always talk about something with literacy. So F is for fire truck, P is for police cars, and then you're matching community helpers. So that's, like I said, you just get make 6 sets, cut them all out, switch them up. It's like the game, a memory game. So that's what I have for you for activities today. Thank you. Next.
Thanks, Rochelle. And she gave you great examples that you can replicate for hundreds of people who come and do service with you. I'm now delighted to introduce our partner at DC Public Schools, Abbey Hadley.
Thanks, Amy, for the introduction, and thanks for inviting me to participate in the webinar today. As Amy mentioned, my name's Abbey Hadley. I am the specialist for Connected Schools with DC Public Schools. Connected Schools is the DC Public School version of community schooling. I'm also a proud AmeriCorps alum of the VISTA partnership between GW and DC Public Schools. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about another great example of a service project that was organized and led through the partnership between DC Public Schools and the Nashman Center at GW. Next slide, please. For Martin Luther King Day of Service this past winter, we partnered to bring needed resources to students and families that were experiencing additional hardships due to the impact of COVID-19. I think this is a great example to share here as we're thinking about supports that schools might need as they're welcoming schools back in person this fall. Resource drives can take many forms and can include all sorts of things. Everything from school supplies to books for home or classroom libraries, basic needs essentials, uniforms, PPE. Schools are going to be in need of all sorts of supports as they think about bringing children back into the buildings, often for the first time in, at least a year and a half. So this winter care package drive that we hosted for MLK Day this past winter, it was also a reimagining of what it means to host a service project. Traditionally, through our partnership with GW, we generally used to focus on a lot of in-person direct service in our schools, having students in classrooms, helping set up for school days or painting murals. And of course, due to COVID-19, we had to kind of reimagine what that partnership could look like and how those supports could come to schools virtually. So we're able to host this resource drive for our schools in a virtual setting. And through these efforts, we were able to collect resources to support over 600 care packages across 12 school communities in the District of Columbia. Next slide, please. So just some concrete things to think about if you're considering hosting a resource drive. I think the first thing to mention is always to understand the needs and assets of your community. Work with the schools in your communities to understand exactly what families, students, and schools are looking for, to make sure that you're collecting items that are truly in need of the school. Oftentimes a school will have a social worker or community school liaison who has been in touch with families and truly understands what families are asking for and what their needs are. And those are great folks to work with to design your resource drive. Of course, you'll also need an outreach strategy, understand what supporters are in your community that might be able to support this resource drive. Are there organizations that can provide like bulk donations for bags or other items? And then just truly coming up with a plan for how you're going to engage folks to support, either through social media, emails, phone calls. You can advertise your service project as part of National Day of Service on various sites and platforms. So really think through how are you going to galvanize support. And this one's pretty obvious, but developing your wish list and managing that. We used an Amazon wish list. But of course, there's all sorts of ways that you could manage that wish list. You could have folks drop off items in person or through other means, and then thinking through the logistics for how you're going to collect those items and get them to distribution. As things are opening up, this might become a little simpler, but of course, there's always those COVID-19 considerations in terms of like what buildings are open to collect items, what folks might be able to be there in person to help package those items. And then making sure that schools have a plan to get those items out to families or into classrooms or into teachers' hands, depending on the focus for your resource drive. And then finally, of course, make sure you have a backup plan. How are you going to support if you only collect all of one type of item? Do you have a donor who could come in and help supplement items that maybe weren't donated on your wish list? So just think through a few different scenarios so that at the end of the day, you're able to support those communities that you're seeking out to serve. And with that, I hope you'll consider supporting schools in your communities through this day of service, either through resource drives or other ways that meet the needs of your schools. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have during the Q&A. And thanks again for having me.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you. This is Karen Daniel. I'm the Vice President of Programs at Youth Service America, and thanks to AmeriCorps and 9/11 Day for organizing this call today. YSA is a 35-year-old nonprofit organization that aims to help young people ages 5 to 25 to find their voice, take action, and have impact in their communities by organizing service projects. So 9/11 Day is one of 3 big days of national service that we promote over the year. And I'm excited to tell you about some of the resources that we have for you to help engage young people in this day of service and throughout the year. On the next slide, you will see how we organize ourselves at YSA. We're excited to be launching this summer a campaign to increase youth engagement to 50%. By America's 250th birthday on July 4th, 2026. On the way to 100% 10 years later, we want to make sure that all young people have the opportunities to secure the advantages of full participation in our society. So you'll be hearing a lot more from us in the coming weeks and months about that. Through campaigns, as I mentioned, we promote 9/11 Day, Martin Luther King Day, and Global Youth Service Day in April as the 3 big days of service throughout the year, but then we also have resources to support youth year-round through our Service Vote campaign with elections, with connections between volunteering and civic engagement, and opportunities for youth to add service to kind of whatever they love to do and whatever they're doing throughout the year. Through programs, we do also offer grants to support organizations and youth as they plan projects. And I'll tell you at the end about some outstanding grants that we have available right now. We also have a variety of trainings, resources available on our website that are all available at no cost. And we do a lot of recognition and storytelling of the amazing things that young people do in order to inspire other young people. On the next slide, you'll see that we really measure our impact in two ways. One is the impact on the youth volunteers themselves, because we know that when they serve, they are acquiring important leadership skills, 21st century skills. And as I said, we really do try to tap into their sparks, as the Search Institute calls them, the things that youth love to do, so that their service is not only meaningful for the community, but fun for them as well. On the next slide, we also look at impact on the community itself. We look at this acronym ASAP, not only as a symbol of needing youth to be involved right away, but also to stand for the 4 big ways that youth can have an impact in their community. We look at things they can do to build awareness among their peers about important issues that need to change in their communities. And I should say not just their peers, their families, their teachers, their community leaders, and others that they reach. Service stands for the direct service that they do to roll up their sleeves and get things done in communities. Advocacy is around influencing policymakers and elected officials around the important issues that they care enough about to serve, so that they also want to change public policy around those issues. And philanthropy is about not just collecting money, but also essential resources for organizations that do need that support. So those are the 4 areas that our resources really address to help youth plan effective projects. We use the global goals to encourage youth to really pick a project issue that is not just important in their community, but important around the whole world. We don't focus on any one particular issue that we encourage youth to address. Rather, we want them to see what the needs are in their communities and what's important to them. But we also do help them to set it in this global context and framework, so they see how their actions locally are affecting everything going on around the world. On the next slide, you'll see on the left a model that we use in all of our resources to really kind of break down the process of planning a service project step by step. On the right, you'll see really an important checklist that we encourage youth and adult leaders to think about as they're planning projects. Of course, youth voice is at the top, because we want to make sure that youth are involved in all aspects of planning the project, from picking the issue to wrapping it up and everything in between. Meaningful service really is the idea of how youth can think about their service projects in a way that has the most impact on the community and engages volunteers in meaningful ways to hopefully make it not just a day of service, but the start of an ongoing commitment. Community partnerships are important ways that youth can really extend not only the impact of their work, but bringing more youth and others to the table who might not have been invited to serve before. That's a strong focus of ours at YSA. We focus on skill building opportunities for youth, because we know that every service project is a chance for youth to build critical leadership and academic skills and workplace skills to really build confidence and things that they will need throughout their lives. And then reflection is an important chance for youth to think about things they're learning, things that surprise them, things they might do differently in the future. And we do encourage that reflection kind of at all points, not just the end, but really the beginning and the middle as well. On the next slide, you'll see a few of our main resources that are available on our website, which you'll see at the top. The Youth Changing the World Guide is our primary toolkit to help youth and their adult allies to plan service projects. And we try to make that really an A to Z model of everything youth will need to think about in planning their project. Our Kids in Action Guide is a version of the Youth Changing the World toolkit for younger kids, geared more towards 5 to 12-year-olds. And we had 5 to 12-year-olds helping us to prepare this, so that was a lot of fun. And then our Semester of Service Teacher Toolkit is geared more towards classrooms to really build service projects into teaching and learning with a service learning standpoint. So encourage you to look at those on our website. On the next slide, some additional resources that I wanted to share with you. In addition to the 3 on the last page, we have a create your own training section where you can really pull a lot of different resources from our site as it fits your needs. We put together a lot of resources in the time of COVID to help people serve during this time. So you'll see COVID specific tips and strategies there. Similarly, we put together a lot of resources to help people plan virtual service projects. And we also curated and developed some of our own resources to help youth think about how to plan service projects that really deal with anti-racism. And you can see a lot of resources there too. On the next slide, we have a specific page that you'll see here at the top dedicated to 9/11 Day resources. And I wanted to highlight a couple of them for you here. The resource on the left breaks down 10 different kind of key principles or values that emerged from 9/11 Day and some examples under each of those values for service projects that really exemplify those traits or values. I know just this morning, my 12-year-old asked me, why is 9/11 Day a day of service? And we know that for kids this age, they probably don't remember 9/11 Day. So this resource can be not only a good way to think about project ideas, but also to set them in context of the 9/11 Day and why we do what we do. The second resource, We Stand Strong, is a disaster preparedness toolkit that can complement some of the resources that Brooke shared that we put together with our partner Save the Children through the support of AmeriCorps. So I encourage you to look at this if you're thinking about disaster preparedness projects. And the tip sheet on the right are some additional resources that we put together with Scholastic to help you think about planning specific projects. On the next slide, you'll see on the left the 10 values that I was talking about on the last slide around the tip sheet around ideas for service and why we think about 9/11 Day as a day of service. On the right, you'll see a sampling of our ideas database, which is searchable by several things, including the issue area that you might be interested in, the spark, the thing that the young person or people love to do, and the ASAP strategy that I talked about earlier. So would encourage you to check out this database as you're thinking about choosing project ideas. On the next slide. This is kind of a model of how we think about days of service and what can be done on these days of service. Of course, the first one, serve, is the obvious place where a lot of people start. We think a lot about 5 big crisis areas that we've been dealing with over the last year in this country around COVID, around the economy, around climate, around racism, and around democracy as kind of 5 big areas where we're seeing really powerful youth-led service projects emerge. But we also look at some other things that can be done on days of service to really build capacity in communities, including advocating for issues, joining organizations and building capacity around after school and youth development programs, celebrating the great contributions that young people make all throughout the year, and then building capacity of organizations to really reach this 50% youth participation goal that I mentioned, and to help communities to move on toward that 100% goal in the future. On the next slide. Last but not least, I wanted to tell you about a few grants that we have available right now. The first one is our lead agency grants, which we give to organizations who want to plan projects for these 3 big days of service, but also to coordinate their communities, to really be kind of the local or state level convener of these days of service in their communities. As you'll notice, this deadline is coming up in just a couple of days. So if you are interested in this, would encourage you to start an application and email us if you need an extension. We're happy to consider that, but would love to work with you because this is one of the main ways that we work with state and local partners. We have grants available for the fall for what we call a semester of service. This is a great opportunity to really look at 9/11 Day as a bookmark to launch a semester of service, which culminates on Martin Luther King Day and gives service learning programs an opportunity to really dive deep into an issue and serve over an extended period of time. And finally, we have after-school grants available for programs that are engaging after-school youth in service or service learning activities throughout the next school year. And that application deadline is the end of July. So again, I know it's always good to end with resources in the form of financial support. So would love to have you check those out. And with that, I will wrap up and happy to answer any questions that people have after we're done.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Tobin, and I hope you all can hear me. I'm just a bit hoarse, so thank you for your patience. Thank you to all the presenters who've come before me. I'm the proud senior advisor for Wounded Warrior Veteran and Military Family Initiatives at AmeriCorps. And so the fact that there's so many people mobilized to serve for 9/11 makes my heart glad. Next slide. So just a little bit about me. I'm a proud combat veteran. I served 2 tours of, in Iraq. So obviously 9/11 changed my life forever. I was just a junior at the United States Military Academy at West Point in Highland Falls, New York. And so I saw the smoke rising from the city. And I knew that what I thought my military career was going to be was going to change forever. But what I also saw was a spirit of unity, service, commitment to others, and support for others that I had never seen in this country. And it made me very, very proud to serve this country. So the fact that there's over 500 people here searching for ways to give back and to continue to serve in the memory of those we lost on that day and those who continued to serve in the days that followed. And lets me know that this country is worth it, right? So thank you for all that you do and all that you're going to do here in the next few months. Next slide. So to be real, very focused, my role here is to encourage all of you in all of your ways, either through volunteerism or leading a project or service project or initiative from and through your organizations, to be focused on veterans and military families. That is my role. And as you all know, COVID has definitely devastated a number of communities. But for veterans and military families in particular, there have been a few areas that we have seen exacerbated by the pandemic. And so these areas are as follows: veterans homelessness. We've definitely seen a spike in veterans homelessness in a number of places. There were states like California that already were challenged by at least a third of the national homelessness challenge for veterans. And we've seen that number increase. We've seen veterans unemployment increase. And then we all know about the challenges we've had around the wellness and the suicide prevention efforts. And then, as always, we want to make sure that we're getting our military family members and our veterans vaccinated. And so these are the 4 areas that I am going to work with you all to help support you in either finding or connecting your efforts to veteran service organizations, or helping you to plan initiatives and projects that are aligned with these 4 areas. Next slide, please. And these are the outcomes that we're looking at. I'm looking to engage more veterans and family members in service to our nation. I'm looking to connect more veterans and military families to services and expand AmeriCorps veteran and military family programming. Now, what does that mean? The reality of it is that I am looking to expand how many grantees and organizations in our portfolio at AmeriCorps that specifically serve veterans and military families. We have a lot of room for improvement. So in these days of service, I am creating a database in which I connect to all of you to give you announcements around funding opportunities. Just so you know, and I know you all will play this back here, this video back here shortly. But our notice of funding opportunities for our next days of service, our next rounds of days of service comes next January. So in January of 2022, you'll have the opportunity to apply for grant funding for our days of service. So we have grantees in addition to our partners at 9/11 Day with David and your fantastic partner. And that application for that next round of grantees will be due there about the end of March. And so as you partner with us for this year's day of service, you're going into our pool of folks that we make sure understand and know what we're focused on. You hear about our funding opportunities, and you're also my partners in making sure we serve more veterans and military families in this country. I'll also say that for all of you who specifically focus on veteran and military family initiatives, I'll do my best to connect you to veteran service organizations who are already doing the work in your communities. That's my background in the nonprofit sector. I will also make sure that through our AmeriCorps resources, we will amplify the work that you're doing. So even if you're taking a bunch of volunteers from your organization and you're volunteering with the organization or you're leading a project, I'll make sure that we highlight that work leading up to the 9/11 Day of Service, and we'll make sure that it's amplified. We are working very closely with Joining Forces, which you know is First Lady Biden's initiative around supporting military families. And so if you're doing that type of work, we're going to make sure that the White House understands that, they amplify that as well. Next slide, please. And so last but not least, this is my contact information. So this is what I'm going to ask that you do. If you specifically want to do projects and initiatives focused on veterans and military family initiatives, you email me there at mtobin@cns.gov with the subject 9/11 Day of Service, Veterans and Military Families. And I'm going to create my own little partner, my own little gang of folks who are going to work on making sure that we focus on positively impacting those who have continued to serve this country in and out of uniform. Thank you all for your time and attention. And I just really appreciate all the service that you've given to this country. Like I said before, you all make it worth it. Thank you.
And our last slide before we have some time for questions, is on supporting mental health, particularly around 9/11 Day, when a lot of people remember the tragedies. But this last 18 months have been really stressful for so many of us across this country and around the world, that it may be helpful to have access to mental health resources to share in your community. So we're sharing these links. All of them have resources that can help you, help others, be part of your service project, or share information about how to access this. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have gotten some ideas and tips that will help you plan 9/11 Day service, or how you will help or connect with someone today, and make that connection or service project the most impactful it can be. So we'll continue to answer questions I'll stay as long as anyone has them, frankly, to try to answer. This is Rhonda at AmeriCorps. If you have a question, please use that raise your hand feature and we can take a question live, or if you continue to put questions in the Zoom and you stay online, I will try to answer them. We will do our best to share the chat feature. I know you, or at least I'll go through it and pull the resources that were mentioned, so that we can share. Many of you have asked, and there have been so many great comments going through. And same with the Q&A. If we can't get to everyone and you send us questions, we'll answer. I encourage you to take a picture or a screenshot of this slide so you'll know how to reach almost all of us. Amy will help get you in touch with Abbey if you have questions for Abbey. So with that, Jeff, do we have any raised hand questions? If not, we'll continue to answer some of them that are in the Q&A chat.
Yes, we do. And I will go ahead and allow him to talk. Our first person up is Courtney. Courtney, you can unmute. Go ahead, Courtney. We can't hear you, Courtney. We'll come back to you. Next up, we'll bring Darlene.
Thank you. I'm living in the state of Nevada. How do you find the organizations? I mean, because I'm a Vista from 2000 and I understand the work, but I don't see the work where I'm living. So how do you find the real work?
Darlene, we'd love to connect you with the State Service Commission in Nevada. If you will email me offline, I will help do that. rtaylor@cns.gov.
Are you on this question and answer? Because I'm on my phone, I can't see.
I am.
Okay. I mean, I'm working with a group of African-American women, and it's unfortunate that we just went and experienced Juneteenth, but the failure rate across America, we really have to figure out what we're going to do this universal preschool, because it depends on, our nation depends on all children accessing basic education. And as a Vista and a former Vista, I understand service, and we have a lot of work to do. Thank you. Thank you for the ability to share my concerns.
Thank you, Darlene. Any other questions?
We're going to try Courtney again. Go ahead, Courtney.
NPRC AmeriCorps alum from 2011, 2012. And I work for a national for-profit company that I can see partnering with many local nonprofits, as we have hundreds of people that I believe would love to be involved. However, my concern is, how would we log this as one company to show that we're partnering all of these different service events?
Oh,
is that possible?
I'm not sure I completely understand your question, Courtney. If you can,
Rhonda,
yep, go ahead.
This is Brooke. I think I might be able to shed a little bit of light on Courtney's question. I think that Courtney, you're most likely referring to probably some sort of technology to record or monitor or manage employees across the country or across a specific region. So
yes,
I would encourage you to reach out first to a local volunteer center. For example, in Houston, our technology, our web platform has the ability to do that for a company. Or you could reach out to, we actually use Galaxy Digital if you wanted to check on that option, or reach out to your local United Way. They very often coordinate large groups of corporate volunteers, if not just in their community, in larger regions. There are a lot of options, but we don't have time for all of that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brooke. Any other questions?
There's no others at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our presenters and everyone who joined us today. I've in the chat, we've mentioned several times, we will make this recording available. We will also make the PowerPoint available. We'll send links. The PowerPoint will be available. I mean, the webinar will be available through a YouTube link next week. I will do my best to make it through all of the questions that were posted if you didn't get an answer. And
Rhonda, we have a couple more if you have time,
okay.
if you want to take them.
Sure.
First up, we have Natalie.
Hi, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to know this slide that's up right now, the Q&A, is that going to also be a part of the live YouTube video recording so we can capture this?
It will be.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very
Great
welcome.
presentation. Have a beautiful evening.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
And next we have Tarina.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, let me say that this has been an excellent presentation by each presenter, and I greatly appreciate the wealth of knowledge that we all have received and look forward to when it's posted on YouTube. My question is, for the grants, I believe it was YSA, there's an extension. Is this for faith-based organizations as well? We're a nonprofit organization or church that does.
Yes, this is Karen. I'll jump in on that. Thank you so much for your question. And yes, faith-based organizations are welcome to apply. And the deadline is coming up, as I said, but we definitely wanted to make this opportunity available to people on the call. So that's why I say, if you'd like to go ahead and start your application by the deadline, and then just email us that you could use an extension, we can work with you on that specifically.
Okay, thank you. Do you have local chapters?
YSA is only a national organization. That's really why we recruit lead agencies, in order to really kind of be the boots on the ground, the local and state organizers via this lead agency opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
I would also point out that national service grants, faith-based organizations that are nonprofits are eligible to apply for national service grants as well, not specifically for religious activities, but for other service activities supporting community needs.
Rhonda, I don't see any more hands raised.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that was a panelist that just raised his hand. Ryan, you can unmute
Hey, everyone.
anytime.
Yes, hi, this is Ryan from 9/11 Day. Just wanted to put in one last plug to encourage as many of you as possible to reach out to me and learn more about the coalition of nonprofits that we're putting together. We would love a huge diversity of organizations that represent the rich fabric of this country. So my email is on this slide you see here. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, or if you want to sign up, it's as easy as saying, sign me up, and we'll get you all the information. Thank you.
And again, thank you, everyone. I've kind of been watching out of one eye all of the chat, and have been so impressed with your comments and thoughtful advice when people ask questions. So thank you very much. You were very much a part of the success of the presentation today by sharing your own information with each other. So thank you again. Please reach out to any of us, or if you can't remember anyone else, but rtaylor@cns.gov, I'll connect you with the others if you miss them. So thank you very much. I think we'll just disconnect now, Jeff. Thank you very much.